Okay, well, welcome to the show. We got guest Judge Yoda once again filling in, and he's going to give myself, Cam, James, and Mike his 2 cents after we rank every installment of Jim Henson's various productions that we've seen. It's interesting how this has been a decades-long thing that just about everybody has encountered in some capacity.
Yeah.
And Mike was saying off air, like you saw it back, I think, initially when the original show got syndicated.
Yeah.
Right.
And they had a special before that. I remember that, and I'll get to that later, what my favorite part of that was, but I think it was a 1 hour special, possibly maybe a half hour. But then that, I think, led to the series, the syndicated series. It was on Friday nights where I lived. 7:30.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
7:30 Friday nights, or 7:30 Friday nights is always pre-network stuff. The syndicated stuff was always a fun time back when 60s and 70s. I remember watching Truth or Consequences at 7:00 Monday through Friday with Bob Barker, and we talked about the game show.
Wow.
I liked that show when I was 9 or 10. So anyway, back to the topic.
Very cool. And yeah, Muppets were always kind of in my life, even in the 90s. Like, there's just always ways to access the different shows and everything. James, I take it you also are same deal, kind of just whatever channel locally showed it.
Well, we had CBS out here doing the Muppet Show, Channel 2, and then PBS was my first remembrance of the Muppets and Jim Henson, because Sesame Street, that was the first thing I can remember watching as a kid, on television, Sesame Street, and then, my mom having me watch, the Muppet Show because they loved watching the Muppets, and then, going to see the Muppet movie with my grandmother, and, the Great Muppet Caper, and then the Muppets Take Manhattan. And I think after that, it kind of took a little bit of a hiatus, because I think Henson wanted to go a little more into experimental direction. So he did like The Storyteller. I think he did Dinosaurs.
Yeah, no, he did.
I'm still coughing. I apologize.
No. Dinosaurs was a Jim Henson production.
Yeah. He was going into different directions, and then he died.
Yeah,
in 1990, and all
he could have done a cancer treatment, but I think he just didn't think it was going to be worth it.
He had a bacterial infection.
Right, but it could have been solved, and I think he just didn't want to go through with it.
Yeah, he just didn't want to do it, and
friend of the show, Mark Argershowitz on Skywalking from Neverland. They had a fun special just showing various Jim Henson interviews, even naughty stuff of the various puppets on different late night shows, being asked risque questions by everyone from Conan to Joan Rivers.
And
Jim Henson's final appearance, it was like on Arsenio or something, and he just sounds in great condition despite all the shit he's been through.
Was it?
That's what happened.
Religious reasons he wouldn't get treatment, like a Christian scientist?
Yeah, I think he was.
I think he thought it was going to be painful or something.
Yeah, he just didn't want to go through it, and his ex-wife Jane, was telling him, "You have to go. You got to go." And he just went into a coma and died, I think. And the sad thing was for us, I was a freshman in high school, and he died like I think 24 hours before or after Sammy Davis Jr. died. And so it was like, these two entertainment icons.
He died a month before I was born, but yeah, I just always, I've never heard anything bad about him.
No, he was
very patient, very understanding, very imaginative.
Coworkers saying the Muppet Man died. I think that's the first time. Yeah.
Well, with us, it was Jim Henson died, and I was like, no, you're effing kidding me. Jim Henson died, and my buddy's like, yeah, he died. And I'm like, shit, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what are we gonna do? It's kind of like, when John Lennon died, I just say it's like, this is the first time, like, people from your childhood pass away, and you're like, the Muppets, Sesame Street. That was our little, our block of
Our perfect little oyster.
first. Yeah, and the thing I said about with Jim Henson was he was always imagining things and going like 5 years beyond what was going to be done, And the thing was, when he came along, puppets were kind of like, you had Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, you had, the Bill Baird puppets. You had all, the Sid and Marty Krofft, Oops to Perry, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He brought these creatures to life, and the thing was that, a 7-foot talking bird. Who the hell thought that up?
Yeah.
A little green frog who was basically
how to operate it, how to make this make sense. Oh, and there's going to be actual humans interacting with them. What?
This was a guy who was doing stuff on the Jimmy Dean show back in the 60s, or he was doing these ads for Coosby's Coffee, which is like some of the best stuff I've seen, commercial wise. Or he'd do he was on the Ed Sullivan show or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
That's what made him so good, was that he was getting to the kids, but he was getting to the adults. And with Sesame Street, that was for the kids. And if your parents were really hip, they'd let you watch the Muppet Show, and you got if you would just laugh because it was something funny, but then you'd watch it, you'd be like, oh, I get the humor in that,
Right.
What was that all about and whatnot, And
a little bit like MST3K, the kids are attracted to the robots, but there's this sophisticated adult humor going.
Yeah.
The kids' heads. Yeah. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it feels both, all age levels kind of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's even if it's a musical number or plot you don't care for, there is something about it that just you can't take your eyes off it, and the creativity is just still something to be admired.
I do remember like being a kid and watching, like, I always say that the best thing he ever did was Sesame Street. I'm sorry, that's tops on my list. Sesame Street is always going to be tops on my list.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
because to me, that was what you learned about things. I think the first time I really cried about somebody dying was when Mr. Hooper died.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
Will Lee had died in real life, the guy who played Mr. Hooper.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, they were kind of wondering, I remember Big Bird said, why is Mr. Hooper saying, and she said, well, Big Bird, Mr. Hooper died. He's not coming back. And that was like the first time, like, I can remember me crying because I loved Mr. Hooper. My dad was like, my dad was like Mr. Hooper, and old, he was an older man, but, it's like, and she's telling, he may be gone, but the memories are there. Excuse me. It's when you're laying down, you cough a lot more. Excuse me. So that's what it was. He taught us about life, birth, death. I remember Maria having her baby. I remember, who was it? Linda, who was deaf, communicating through sign language.
Yeah.
This is what we learned in life. You see kids stuff today. It's kind of like
it's just go to the restroom and do other nasty stuff, and bullies having redemption. But you're just like, but that's not teaching me anything.
They sugarcoat it now. It's either sugarcoated like Barney, which I thought was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I hated Barney. Barney to me was not Sesame Street. Barney was like, okay, kids, what are we going to do? Let's clean up the house, Barney. It was like when we were when I was watching Sesame Street. Mike, you did you watch Sesame Street when you were little, or?
Yeah, well, I had 3 younger brothers, so we had the album, and Rubber Ducky was a big hit that summer of '70, I think, with Ernie, and I remember watching it, Mom and Dad's room, in the morning. Sometimes we all watching on a little TV. We had the first color TV was about the size of this laptop,
Yeah.
But, I have memories of watching it in color. It came out '69.
Yep.
Okay, I do remember seeing it in color. I don't remember seeing it in black and white. So,
nice.
And I remember, like, watching, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and you don't realize later that's the Pointer Sisters doing the soundtrack to that.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Or the one I loved was, who is it? It's me, the plumber. I'm here to fix the sink. Who is it? It's, that's the great thing about the joke. That joke, that running gag was, the whole thing. So Sesame Street to me is just his top achievement. He wanted to make a show that was funny and informative for kids. Like he makes Bert and Ernie, the Odd Couple. That's what they're based on. They're based on Oscar and Felix. Let's not, that's what it is. Bert is the uptight one, and
it took us a while to find out they're also a closeted couple, but yeah.
No, I don't think that's a bunch of bullshit that I heard when I was a kid. There was a big rumor going around. They're going to have like one of them die of AIDS. My friend, because one of my friends was like, this is typical North Jersey stupidity. When hey, they're fags, right? I'm like, no, they're not. They're puppets.
Okay, wait.
First off, they're made of felt. They're,
yeah.
Okay, so
come on.
According to Sesame Workshop, the organization says it's official that they are not straight, but they are simply best friends.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm just straight either. Again, they're made of felt. Come on,
they're puppets. Who doesn't like to hear, them arguing in the middle of the night? Bert, yeah, Ernie, Bert, I want a glass of water. Well, get out of bed, Ernie, and get it. I don't want to get it. Why? It's too far. It's just so silly to hear these things. But the thing was,
I just thought it was funny either way that this came up. I'm like, because I just never thought of it. I always thought they were just angry brothers that lived together.
I thought they were just two guys that just lived together like the Odd Couple.
Yeah, I was going to just say that. I wonder if the Odd Couple influenced that a little bit.
Yeah.
And Bert was the intolerant one, and Ernie was just the happy-go-lucky one.
Yeah.
It's set in a different way. Yeah. Personality clash.
And do you remember the Doodle Bugs?
The Doodle? Oh wow, we're going away into.
They were those little. They were the little bugs that lived in the
that's like a 73 one. They're going to the zoo. Yeah, I never knew what they were called, but I recognize them instantly now because I think they use the similar puppet for some of the underwater snails and other stuff.
Yeah, the Doodle Bugs were these little bugs that lived in a window box that I think Ernie had.
Yeah.
Or Bert had. Yeah.
They're like his pets.
I remember a game you could get. Was it where you had a wand and you could move the bugs around in a maze? Does that ring a bell? I thought
it does a little bit.
Anyway, that made me think of that when you said that. But
they did have some very interesting merchandise. A lot of stuff that I must applaud them for being very interactive and
predating Star Wars merchandise, sure.
Well, there was that too. It was weird when Darth Vader was on there, and Skywalking Neverland did get a chance to interview some of the other guys who operate. Even a young filmmaker, Mick Garris, you might know him from his different Stephen King adaptations. He was the R2-D2 operator.
Yeah.
And he operated them, I think, a few times, but it was difficult because sometimes that would interfere with the various taxi cab and other radio signals. So sometimes they'd have to stall an hour. Like R2 is not responding to our signal. But yeah, Lucas allowed them on there as long as it was in character, not derogatory. But I think then when they did a Darth Vader singing and dancing, then that's when they was like, okay, stop that shit. Stop bringing my guys onto your show.
well, they did a crossover with on the Muppet Show with Mark Hamill on there, and
yes, he did.
Miss Piggy was dressed up as Princess Leia, and I think it was the guy who was Pigs in Space was dressed up like Han Solo, and Gonzo was dressed like Darth Vader.
That's what.
And I was just like, okay, how could this get worse? And also I'm thinking to myself, oh wait, yeah, the '78 holiday special, shit, But the Muppet Show got us turned on to a lot of stuff we never saw before, because the Muppet Show. I'm sorry if I'm going on here, and I don't mean to. We're going to do our top 5.
You are. Continue, you must. All right, Yoda.
The Muppet Show introduced me to a lot of people I've never seen or heard before. Like Spike, I remember he had Spike Milligan on.
Oh wow.
That's one of the funniest episodes they ever did. This Spike Milligan was this comedian, and he wanted to have Spike Milligan on. He wanted to have Spike Milligan because he loved the Goon Show and he loved the humor and all that stuff. So they had, and I think Lou Grade did the Muppet Show because it was ITV.
Yeah, I remember that those credits. Wasn't it the theme
Yeah.
at the end? Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he had. I think if they'd gone one more season, he would have had Harry C come on. So that would have been all three of the Goons. Because he had Sellers on. He had Sellers was the one I'm kind of like watching, and I kind of like get the feeling like how Peter Sellers was the way he was, because he says, "I don't know who I am. I had him surgically removed."
Sweet.
But Milligan just does this thing where he's doing a broadcast with the guy who's the Muppet news anchor, and he's doing like all this like sight gags on the side. My mom says, I told my mom about it. I said, "Do you remember me watching the Muppet Show with Spike Milligan?" She's like, "Yeah, I remember you were like literally convulsing with laughter the whole time he's doing the news thing, because it was just so silly." And then they brought on like Jonathan Winters one time. They brought on Juliet Prowse, Rita Moreno, Woman Shantz, Joel Grey, Roy Dale.
They had Alice Cooper on one, which was great.
Alice
great
Cooper was great
number.
because he did "Welcome to My Nightmare." That was the first time I was scared of Alice Cooper as a little kid.
Really?
He was on the I was scared of Alice Cooper because here's this guy. He's got long hair and he sings about stuff that I'm like, oh God, this guy's here. I watched him on the Muppet Show, and then I watched him on the Soupy Sales Show when Soupy did his new show.
Oh wow!
And I never realized he said later, he says, I loved watching Soupy Sales as a teenager. And he says when he did the Muppet Show, he said he did that as a favor because he wanted to show that he wasn't scary at all.
That's true.
He was, he was just a guy who was just a singer. That's all.
I'm listing off a few other awesome ones for you: Cloris Leachman, John Cleese, Julie Andrews, Rita Moreno, Christopher Reeve, and Diana Ross.
Superman did one. That's cool.
Yeah, there you go. I think I don't think he was in uniform, but they definitely referred to him on that episode.
Yeah.
Pretty Superman.
They did the one with Rita Moreno. I love is when she's singing "Fever," and Animals on the drums. And she says, "When you put your arms around me," and she goes, and she goes, just, "Hey, Chico, and he just looks, and he goes, "Ah," and he goes, it's just so funny to watch that because it's like, she's Buddy Rich. I remember Buddy Rich. My dad loved it because Buddy Rich was on that show with Animal, and they did a drum off. And my dad said, "Now you're going to see a drummer in action." And I just kept thinking in the back of my head later in life, I'm like, I wonder if he swore at the Muppets.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Well, like
good
to see
question.
the stuff if they got along. Yeah.
So Alan Arkin,
they had Marty Feldman on. They had
Marty Feldman, Harry Belafonte,
Harry Belafonte did a great song on there.
Some just inspired casting, and some of them, like you say, were just on the rise, but that gave them a career boost. It was just as good as going on Johnny Carson back in the day.
There's one they pulled.
Yeah, because there was this infamous comedian we mentioned last time who was part of the Pythons. Due to his category free crime, which we're not going to go into. They pulled that episode off.
Even like the people at Disney and the people at Henson's were like, "Yeah, we're not putting that."
I think the episode itself is fine, but he's in just too much of it for them to even justify cutting it down.
Yeah.
They're just like, let's not upload that.
They had Crystal Gale. I think they had a whole bunch of people. John
Burnett,
Denver,
John
Denver. I always wondered, I know Milton Berle did one.
Yeah. Yes. I think so. Johnny
he
Cash,
goes off,
like you said.
Johnny Cash. I know Milton Berle goes off. Carol Channing. Okay. They had
Coburn. Oh my God, that's right. James Coburn.
I saw
James Coburn was on it.
Judy Collins, Rita Coolidge. Wow.
Yeah. That was like one of those things.
I saw Crystal Gale at Aonia Free Fair, which is near here. back in the 80s, I think. And Ray Stevens was the opening act. So
Oh wow.
Yeah.
God help you. No, I'm just kidding with you.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot to go. There wasn't a lot of good concerts around here for a while, but it was all right.
I just remember Crystal Gill being on that show and doing this one song where it was like ghosts were around her, and it was like this really cool song, and I was mesmerized by it because they ran the Muppet Show on CBS.
Yeah,
they took it off and then they put it on TNT for a while, like to rerun the rerun. Yeah, because I think Turner got the licensing for a while. And I meant to tell you guys this story a couple of weeks ago. My aunt was working for Jim Henson. Like she was doing commercial work, right?
Holy moly!
So it was my grandmother's, I think, 80th birthday or 85th birthday or something like. I think it was her 80th birthday. So my aunt got a call from my mom and said, or my mom got a call from my aunt saying, "You want to come in the city?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." She says, "I got a surprise for you." She's like, "Okay." So first off, my grandmother had a tape made for her. Now my grandmother was like 80 years old. She had a stroke. It was Grover saying "Happy Birthday, Betty." The sign and him saying "Happy Birthday." But my mom went into Henson's studios and saw everything there.
Man,
she looked up. It was the Muppets in a balloon. She saw stuff. She told me, I can't tell you what was in there because at that time it was so closely guarded what he was developing at that time. And the thing was, my mom and my dad, God bless them, they were always telling me that's what imagination does. That's what it is. And then you got to think too, in between the Muppet Show and Sesame Street, he does a show on HBO called Fraggle Rock.
Yep. Very mind blowing. And it always just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, it's on the movie channel?
Because that was a show on HBO. It was a half an hour show. It was for kids. It opened our horizons to everything.
It was very easy to see various compilations on VHS that were for rental. But by the 2000s, I definitely can cite the main Muppet Show was definitely being re-aired on Hallmark Channel for a while.
Yeah.
But when they did Muppets Tonight, which I thought was also just a wonderful continuation because it didn't change too much of the style and it showed more of what goes on behind the scenes. I missed the first run when it was on ABC, but they re-aired it constantly on Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And that was a good way for me to start my evening because it was like, hey, so I always had a good idea of kind of the show business when it was emulated or parodied on TV because I just had seen so many stuff like this showing behind the scenes and cameras.
Is Disney Plus showing Muppet stuff at all right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
As we were saying, all of them are on there except the one episode with the one band person, but everything else, pretty fair game, pretty easy to come down. And even though I know the Disney takeover really divided a lot of people, and people including the Rizzo and Gonzo guys got unfairly, fired or left over creative differences. I think that, I don't think they own it completely.
No,
I think the rights keep reverting back to the Henson. They just often do the distribution part. But
yeah. And I know Brian Henson has something to do with, his father's estate, and there's been a lot of BS going on with that. I don't know what the hell happened. He fired the guy who's Kermit the Frog, and then he hired somebody else. This guy got, the guy who was Elmo got fired because of
a false claim that he was like a pedophile or some shit.
Yeah,
but
and,
but the damage was done. So I think they silently rehired him back. I think.
Yeah, I remember they did that on Family Guy. Don't touch me there, Elmo.
Oh my god!
And then so there's been a lot of like stuff in that family where I'm like kind of like, oh, come on, your dad wouldn't have pulled this shit and put the dirty laundry out, for everybody to look at. But the thing that gets me the most is like he did those 3 shows, and then he put himself out into movies. The movies, the first 3 are great. I don't like Muppets Take Manhattan though. I'm kind of like,
Yeah, I'm pretty much
I'm
the
kind of like,
same. I always
yeah,
thought it
I'm
was a
kind of like,
little overlong.
The Muppet movie was great, the original. We have a great soundtrack by Paul Williams.
Oh yeah.
Muppet Caper was great. I loved Muppet Treasure Island. I
Yep.
loved Muppets Christmas Carol.
Mhm.
You should see the outtakes from that because they're really funny to watch. Oh yeah, there's one part where Ratso and Gonzo are trying to get into the house, and they like when someone throws a hook and it gets caught on Gonzo's hat. And he goes, "Man down, medic, medic, medic." I mean, the one I loved was Muppets from Outer Space.
Yes.
I thought that was just so off the wall.
For so many other franchises near the end of the millennium, you can tell they were dying down, pre-internet. There wasn't as big a market, but that one still, despite them doing covers of different kinds of Motown and recent pop songs, it still had a solid kind of energy, I think. Because you see other kids' movies or family fare, and it just hasn't dated well because it's just catering to only the kids. And there's still plenty of great gags in that. Did you ever see the DVD add-on where they have a Mystery Science Theater type silhouette commentary that pops up?
No, I haven't.
And most notably during the opening tractor segment. But yeah, where they're getting the chores done and mowing the lawn. And to your earlier point, I think these films all flow because, like you say, they kind of build their world and they show them doing everyday functions instead of just, hey, we're the Muppets, you should know who the hell we are. And it's like, well, they always have a moment to breathe before they get to all the various gags that people love.
Well, the thing I liked about Muppets from Outer Space was it wasn't Kermit and Piggy.
Yeah,
it was Gonzo. Gonzo was Gonzo and Ratso and Pepe are like in the Gonzo's like the most unlikeliest character to have a movie centered around him. And the thing I loved about that was that they got like Big Bear was in that.
He was
as a big security guard, and Hulk Hogan's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's so many. Jeffrey Tambor. They had Dawson's Creek. The people from Dawson's Creek in it.
I forgot about that. It's a blink and a miss kind of moment where they're watching.
You think Dawson's gonna hate missing this? Nah, he's gonna like it no matter. I keep thinking the X-Files were in it for some strange reason.
I think they just referenced it just by having kind of like Men in Black guys in suits, but it went over my head because I saw this before that.
Did you guys see the 2 new ones that came out?
Yes, I did, and I'll get to it in my ranking. But I can see why they divide people, but I can see why some people were like, "Hey, the second one at least needs a nom for best song because there is an interesting Kermit music section." But yeah, I mean, there is something for everybody. I'm just glad that it's still going because you see so many other movies and shows that it's not that they're divisive so much as it just doesn't seem like people are. They're so. I'm really struggling to find the words today, but I think the main issue is that you find so many people who are kind of asleep at the wheel. They're trying so hard to get something in the can that they're rushing the process, and it kind of shows sometimes, but
they're going through the motions.
Yeah, they're dead man walking kind of, and it's like, well, just if you're not ready to film, let's film another day and get some B-roll on some other stuff.
And I think the thing that gets me the most is with Henson. Something tells me he left some things behind. Like there are certain parts in the Muppet Show. I remember the one that goes mana mana.
Yes. Oh man,
that sticks in your head.
Always. And it doesn't matter if you're just like a casual person. Like people bring it up, like just in public, everybody will start breaking into dance or just going into chorus. It is one of those kinds of gags. It's kind of universal in a way.
and that whole sketch, my father and me would watch, and my father would be laughing, and I would start laughing because it's just so funny. The guys in the back, and they're going like, the two puppets are on their head, and they go up front, he goes in the back, he goes up front, they're in the back. It's a lot of sight gags and stuff.
Yes. Oh, it's so much sights. That is definitely the best way to put it, because it and kudos to anyone, all those assistant directors, all those guys figuring out how to stage that. Where all the puppeteers are going to be interacting with each other, and where the main performer or human talents are going to be in proportion to the camera singing.
We forgot something here that he did that a lot of people kind of like, I think, have looked over and said, hey, that's a great movie. It's The Dark Crystal.
There is Dark Crystal. There's also Dream Child around that same time.
Yeah, Labyrinth.
Interesting how he does all these back to back. And there was one in the 90s. He also, or late 80s, that I always got mixed up with Hocus Pocus.
Witches.
That's the one. Yes. Yeah.
The Witches scared the shit out of me as a kid.
It did for many people.
My wife just said me too. Because that scene where they all like
turn into mice.
No, not when they turn to mice. When they become like giant rats. Oh, this is my wife, Kathleen, guys.
Hi, Mrs. Bruno.
Call me Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen.
Yeah, we're Muppet lovers in this house, so the Witches was like a really screwed up movie. They just redid it a couple of years ago, and
really?
But yeah, the original, like with Angelica Houston, she morphs into this like rat like creature. Wow. And all I remember is the kids are being chased around, and I don't remember a lot about the script. I remember my niece seeing it, and they got freaked out by it too.
It sounds like the equivalent of the winged monkeys in the Wizard of Oz. That would.
Absolutely, Nightmare Fuel. Even though it's not like graphic or anything, it's still that kind of dark fantasy that.
Yeah, you don't really see what's going on, but yeah.
It's just the music and just bizarre characters are enough to kind of shin to shiver.
Yeah. Labyrinth was a great movie because that kind of made me a hip fan of Bowie.
I think it was the first thing I saw him in too. It was just I knew who he was. I'd heard enough of his songs, but I didn't. It was like the first time I saw. You know what? He can actually carry a movie.
And he's not. He does that song. You remind me of the man. The power of who do you do you. He does that whole bit, and he's not. He's good as the Goblin King. I loved him as the Goblin King.
He was great in that. It introduced me to Jennifer Connelly. It introduced me to all just. And that was produced by George Lucas, I think. Yeah.
No, that was. I think he did that. Yeah.
I think he just gave money, kind of like he did to Kurosawa. He wasn't on set necessarily.
Yeah. But the one that gets me is The Dark Crystal, because I remember, if you guys had ever seen that.
Yes. I had.
That was a movie that kind of was this whole like Lord of the Rings-ish.
Oh, it absolutely was. Yeah.
A very dark movie to watch because it's about a bunch of genocide, people getting wiped out, and there's two races. There's one called the Skeksis and one called the Elders, and the there's these things called Gelflings, which are like hobbits, but they're not. They don't look like hobbits,
Mm-hmm.
And there's this crystal that'll like unite everything together. Once they get it, it was just a really fun movie to watch. I can't watch it because I don't know. I got very like I don't know. It kind of turned me off to the Muppets for like a couple months, and I was like, all right, let me watch it again when it's on cable. I watched it again on cable. It's a good story. I just think it lost. A lot of people were expecting cute little things.
Did you ever see the follow-up miniseries that they put on Netflix?
No, I didn't get a chance to.
I heard it was solid. It just wasn't seen by many.
Yeah, Netflix did it, I think.
Yeah.
And it was a prequel or a sequel. I don't know what it was.
Sequel. And it had
so it's after the movie, right?
yeah, it was just a follow up in that universe. I think they made some comic book follow ups as well that I got to check out.
That's
Do you consider Yoda a Muppet? Please tell me.
well,
What am I?
isn't he Jim Henson's creation? Or am I supposed to say
No,
that?
Stuart Freeborn.
Okay.
Puppeteer
Stuart
me, he did.
Freeborn. Stuart Freeborn created him. Frank Oz gave him the voice.
Oh, Frank Oz. Okay, I knew there was a
Yeah.
Frank
Yeah.
Oz. Okay,
And
that's what it was.
the thing is that
What
I
am
always
I?
say Yoda is an offshoot of what Yoda gave, I think, Henson the idea about what you could do besides making the Muppets. Because if you look at the Dark Crystal, that was years before. I mean, that was early animatronics, early, people in suits. I mean, the giant.
Especially the Snuffleupagus.
Yeah, Snuffleupagus was okay, Big Bird, I'll do it. I used to do Snuffleupagus when I get pissed off. I'd be like, okay, Mom, I'll go do it. Who are you doing? Snuffleupagus. Don't do that ever again. I'd be the lone kid at school who'd be like, I know I did bad on the test. Don't worry. No, you did great. I did? Yeah, you did. Okay.
Now, wasn't the thing only Big Bird could see him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only Big Bird could see him.
He was a very underrated, I found, creation. Him
Yeah.
and Harry Monster didn't get enough.
And then everybody could see him later.
And I think it was Telly as well.
Telly could see him. And
Right.
then
And I always thought they underused him.
Did you guys ever hear the story of Margaret Hamilton being on that show? The Sesame Street?
Absolutely not. I gotta hear this.
Okay. So I think it's 1975, 76.
The educator guy?
Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West.
Right. She was a teacher, I think, before she got into acting. Yeah.
No. She was in The Wizard of Oz.
And she was a school teacher.
Yeah, she was a school teacher, right?
That's what I mean.
So what happened was that they said, hey, why don't you come on Sesame Street? Because all the kids know you as the Wicked Witch of the West. Why don't you come on and say you lost your broom? And she came on with the green makeup and everything. And kids got scared because they thought it was something. And they pulled the episode. There's only somebody said that they're going to try to rerun it again and see, because she's just, and then she went on Mr. Rogers later to show everybody, no, it's just a cape and a hat I put on and I do the voice and all that stuff. It's like with Lou Ferrigno with the Hulk.
Oh, yes.
So was she trying to be nice as the Wicked Witch on
No, she wasn't trying to be nice. She hung out with Oscar because Oscar was a grouch and supposedly her character is a grouch too. She can't find her broom.
Yeah.
And so that's what the episode was about. And it turns out I think Oscar had the broom or something like that. And they show she flies away and everything like that at the end. But the thing was, I just loved that she was on it. I remember seeing that episode too. I think they ran it one more time, and I think they pulled it. But
yeah, they were really bad about. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that stuff is lost to time. There were so many actors, including Kim Raver and Giancarlo Esposito, where that was like their first recurring role. I know that one favorite of mine in my household, for my folks, they really dug the Queen Latifah episode. That there was always just someone where you're just like that, and it wasn't uncommon for them to, take portions of earlier shows and mix it in with new footage. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if half the time everyone has seen many of the same episodes, but they might not have seen the exact same one. They might have seen 70s ones inserted with 80s, 90s, and 2000s ones.
The one I loved was I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I got a weird offshoot thing about Margaret Hamilton. I've listened to every episode of. You ever heard of the CBS Radio Mystery Theater?
Yeah.
Yes. Was that the Lux? That was the Lux Radio Mystery Theater, right?
No, it was CBS. It was out of 74 till about 83. E.G. Marshall, who plays the president in Superman 2, hosted it.
Okay.
Holy
He
crap!
got a great voice for it. But
Okay,
Margaret
I didn't
Hamilton,
realize that was the same talent.
I've heard every episode. I got somebody sent me MP3s of it, and you can find them on YouTube.
Holy shit! You can
Yeah,
find all
there's-
13.99 episodes on the archive. I'm going to share that.
You knew there was 1,400 episodes. That's cool. And they did one live episode, which you never heard. But anyway, Margaret Hamilton was in an episode or two, and she played a witch in one. Not the Wicked Witch, but her character was a witch.
That's a wild throwback. And I
Yeah.
actually do like it when people do that. I mean, you would see sometimes people do that when they're in like a Roger Corman thing where they're doing kind of a role that's kind of hinting at their famous.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I don't I'll get away from this topic, but there's a lot of Sarah Jessica Parker, about 14 years old, is on an episode.
Oh, I bet.
Okay.
John Lithgow was on several episodes. Oh gosh, who's that actor that was in the movie The Doctor with William Hurt?
Uh,
You know who I mean? He's got kind of a funny name, but he's
Mandy
he's
Patinkin? No.
Are you talking
What was
about Patinkin?
Mandy, but yeah, he's in a few.
Okay, yeah, right.
And one more, if you ever saw Squirm on Mystery Science Theater 3,
Yes.
the lead character, that kind of a wimpy kid, the lead character,
Yeah.
he's in several episodes, and he has the creepiest voice.
Oh my
Every
God.
episode he's in, it's like something's not right here, you know?
Well, it's so cool though
Yeah,
that
very
people.
unnerving. So there's radio's really fun. Radio,
But
drama.
isn't it cool that people have copies of this shit and
Yeah.
have uploaded everywhere instead of just waiting for streaming or someone else to come around to it and remind everyone it existed?
Yeah. And I got them on MP3s. Over a few years, I redubbed them all so I could put chapter breaks in them. So,
Oh yeah. Where do you find a bookmark?
yeah. And what's fun is they have the old commercials and news stories of the day. So I heard the whole Patty Hearst saga evolve over like 5 or 6.
Oh my God.
Over a year. So
Patty Hearst,
too.
Patty Hearst, who's now named as Tanya, was seen
Yeah.
robbing a bank with the SLA. She's
Oh,
now
man.
wanted by the police. Patty Hearst was brought in today, and she said, "My name is Tanya." And somebody said, "No, your name is Patty." No.
Wow.
Anyway. But we got off on a tangent there, but I
No,
recommend
it's fine. I do think that's a good segue in that, much like, I mean, again, we're talking about decades old radio show. I do think it's an interesting thing. It's charmed so many people. It's found a way to be syndicated and reshown numerous times because the ratings were always
Well,
there.
The thing I loved about the Muppet Show is one time they had Edgar Bergen on, right, with Charlie McCarthy,
Oh, sweet.
right?
Man.
So
it.
my mother and my father are watching this. I turn around. I'm like about 14, 15 years old. I turn around and my mom goes, "Oh yeah, that's Candace Bergen's father." I'm like, "Yeah, I know that, because I found that out. I used to, big reader and stuff like that." And then I go, "What the fuck is the big deal about this guy? You can see his mouth moving."
Yes, because he was on radio. He could get away with it then.
I'm like, "He's holding the puppet. You can see his mouth move." My father's going, "No, you can't. Dad, look,
You
see,
could.
mouth moving.
You
Puppet
can't
mouth
lie
moving."
on this. Yeah.
I'm like, what the? Well, my mom said, "Well, he was funny on radio." I'm like, "Yeah, he didn't even have the dummy on radio. He just like do the voice and like walk off."
So I guess this
You know,
was
the
The thing is,
eye-opening.
those radio shows were in front of live audiences. You think the audience would pick up on the fact too that you could see his mouth move.
I guess it was like a regular studio audience where they would probably had the equivalent of an NDA back in the day where they're like, hey, you can't talk about what goes on behind here. You're just supposed to laugh on cue. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some miscommunication and not everyone knew that.
Yeah, and the press would not talk about FDR's condition either.
Back when they had ethics,
Yeah.
and they're like,
No.
we don't want
Yeah.
to want anyone to worry or get in legal trouble for showing someone's deteriorating state.
Right.
Yeah. Why is FDR sitting down a lot? Well, he's got a bad back. Oh, okay.
Who cares about us? What?
I think by his fourth term, he finally it was well known by then. But
Yeah, he
But
was,
like I
he was-
say-
he was- I think there was a picture of him circulated that he did have, he had his braces on, and you know, they were, he did admit, yeah, I got polio when I was a child, and I was swimming in a cold lake, and I'm like, no,
And there's an
but the
awful
thing that gets
moment, the awful moment in the Pearl Harbor movie, and John Voight says, "You don't think we can do this?" He stands up. Remember that?
My God.
yeah.
I don't
Oh,
think that was factual.
definitely not factual.
You don't think we can do this? Hey,
Yeah.
John, Midnight Cowboy was a long time ago.
Don't help me now. Don't help me now. And he said, "Yeah."
Oh man,
one of many
I once
problems with
bit
that
Jerry
movie.
Seinfeld.
Why is he in a wheelchair? Because he has. I love the Family Guy. That excuse is about as lame as FDR legs, and they all go, I said, what, too soon?
Oh God.
But what gets me the most is Henson's way of thinking was so far beyond. I mean, you got to
Thinking
think
he did.
children's television changed. The children's television workshop,
Really
Sesame Street.
Yep.
And what was on after Sesame Street? I don't remember anything on after Sesame Street.
No.
I just remember they had a Spanish version of Sesame Street, and I learned how to say Guiardo and Aqua.
The Electric Company.
The Electric Company was on afterwards. Yeah.
There you go.
There was also some bizarre trying to recreate Sesame. Remember the new Zoo review?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm friends with Doug and Emmy Lou. They're married in real life.
Really?
And you will not believe there is an outtake of that show. So many outtakes of that show. There's one of Freddie the Frog and Orson. And it's just the dirtiest thing. I couldn't believe they got away with it. You can hear them laughing in the background when they're doing the voices and stuff. And I was howling when they did it. There's stuff like when, Jesse White shows up. If you remember Jesse White, he was the Maytag repairman. He goes, shit, I forgot the line,
Oh my God.
I mean,
they aired those?
Oh yeah. It wasn't aired. It was cut.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you have to look it up.
Okay.
It's the outtake. And I'm on the New Zoo Review Facebook page. No one has said a word about it.
You should bring it up.
I will bring it up. I'll be like, hey, what do you I know we love this, but to watch the outtakes is some of the best stuff ever, because it's like, you see like, some of it is like, they jokingly bring two guys to rough up Orson, from Chicago. It's just silly shit. And I watched it and I was howling. I think what they did was, it was always there to just, break the tension and everything like that. But yeah, New Zoo Review, I kind of remember being on there. And when you're
Joel used it as a riff on Teenagers from Outer Space with
it's
the news, that's right.
Yes. Yeah, one of the characters reminded him of somebody in the show.
Grandpa.
Yep.
That's what he
singing New Zoo Review.
What other shows kind of ripped off? Not ripped. Well, we're trying to.
Or was in the same kind of thing. I mean, Crofts. Some of their later productions, you could definitely get a Jim Henson kind of feel.
Crofts were a little bit different. Crofts were, they were just doing stories. With their stuff, it was always a singular season or 2-season series, and then that was it. I think the longest that ran was Land of the Lost, which had 3 seasons. But everything was kind of like, psychedelic colors and all that. And I think that kind of was spreading into children's television, because you remember children's television before the Electric Company was, hello kids, today we're going to learn about dinosaurs. It's these old farts that were,
Kukla, Fran and Ollie.
Fran and Ollie, which were great,
And who's the farful? Chocolate. Who was that?
Damn, I know that one.
Yeah, the puppeteer.
Man.
Mortimer Snurd and
that was Edgar Bergen.
Was it like the Libby's theme? Libby's
Edgar
on
Bergen
the
did Mortimer
table.
No, it wasn't Edgar Bergen. It was Dana Gould.
Paul Winchell.
Paul Winchell. There you go.
Paul Winchell.
Oh, wow.
Who I think
Paul
actually was very smart. I think he worked on heart surgery or something like that. So,
Yeah, he worked on the artificial heart.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
daughter. There's a lot of things his daughter said about him that I was like, oh my god. That I remember him. Yeah, he had Knucklehead Smith. It was Knucklehead Smith. Yeah. Knucklehead Smith and Jerry Mahoney. That was his puppets. Mortimer Snurd was Edgar Bergen. Because Mortimer Snurd was like, yup, like that. And Knucklehead Smith and Jerry Mahoney were Paul Winchell's puppets because my dad, again, he had those two characters. I never got to see Jerry Mahoney though.
You're getting close.
I never got to see Paul Winchell. But we had, if you remember,
ventriloquism
and
puppeteering kind of go hand in hand, though.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast wrecks and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
In a way.
I think he had a horse-like character called Charlie Horse. I had a puppet of it when I was a kid.
Charlie Horse, I think, was the one who did Lamb Chop.
Okay. Which was...
Lamb Chop
Sherry
is
Lewis.
definitely a good contrast. Just post
I couldn't. Forgive me for saying this.
That was no, yeah. But anyway.
Sherry Lewis. Sherry Lewis.
There you go. Yep.
I couldn't stand fucking Sherry Lewis.
I'll take her over
fucking
Barney.
hated Sherry Lewis. There's a thing. Opie and Anthony did this thing where when she died, they interviewed Lamb Chop, and they're like, "Lamb Chop, how do you feel?" Somebody was doing the Lamb Chop was going, "I'm happy the bitch is dead."
Oh
You tried going all these years with your hand up. Somebody's having their hand up your ass. Jesus H Christ!
I used to love Mr. Moose on Captain Kangaroo.
Oh my God, Captain Kangaroo!
He rocked. I liked him when
Man, we're going way back. Yeah.
What's the secret word?
Oh, the ping pong ball's coming down.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta show you a picture of my dad in the when he was older, and a picture of Captain Kangaroo. And I used to tell my dad when I was little, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing on TV?" He's like, "What?" So he comes out one day. He's got his pajamas on. He's like, "Well, that's you, right, Dad?" And my dad goes, No, I'm not Captain Kangaroo, Jay," because my dad looked like Bob Keeshan, certain, when he got older. So I used to tell kids at school, like, "Watch Captain Kangaroo. I think that's my dad." And the kids would come back, "Your dad's Captain Kangaroo." And I was like, No. He looks like Captain Kangaroo. And, the one thing I loved about Captain Kangaroo, and you remember the Patchwork Family?
No, back at no.
The Patchwork Factory. It's the Patchwork Factory. That was out.
It's another puppet show. Okay.
Yeah, that was another puppet show that kind of was there but not there.
One
I remember
season,
watching
72 to 73. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of those things CBS used to run early or in the morning, right before Saturday service.
What about the Magic Garden?
Oh God, yeah. Paula and Carol.
I think so. Same.
Yeah.
I think it was the same people. But
I always. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Beanie and Cecil. Cecil
Yep.
the Cecil. That was animated, but I think wasn't there a puppet version of it as well?
Yes, there was,
Possibly.
and that was Bob. That was Bob Clampett.
Okay. Well, he did the cartoon,
guy-
but he also did because I remember my cousins had the puppet of Cecil.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of I watched a lot of similar stuff. Obviously, I did Thomas the Tank Engine. I had no issues with Carlin or Ringo Starr as the voiceovers. I did plenty of, but the leading up to that was Shining Time Station.
Okay.
Yeah, I just remember, like, you know, in the 80s, excuse me, in the 80s and the 90s, it was just kind of like, you know,
Free for all.
We had
for all,
Pee-wee.
but
You had Pee-wee's Playhouse.
yeah,
Yeah, I was just
Pee-wee's
about to say, yeah,
Playhouse.
that was a good.
and
Uh,
and we can thank Tim Burton for that,
yeah.
and Rob Zombie.
Yes, he worked on it.
He
yeah.
worked on that show.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, the thing with Henson is that he kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of things. Some things were great, like, you know, the Electric Company, 321 Contact. Some things were bad, like, I don't know, fucking that purple dinosaur Barney. I hate that. God, I
You
had
know how there's a cheat code on the Doom games where you can make the demons look like.
yeah.
Teletubbies.
It was
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
god! I watched so much of that. I didn't know what it was. I just watched it because it was on.
who remembers Tinky Winky being accused of being gay by Jerry Falwell?
Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't hear about that, but that's.
Oh God, Jerry
Wow.
Falwell and his infinite
I know
godly
about.
wisdom.
Oh, Jerry. Ugh. Well,
That
he's
was
dead.
all-
He's dead, and you're not, so that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, him and Pat Robertson are kissing.
Oh yeah, they're totally cuddling.
Going way, way back, there was a show called Winky Dink. But
yes,
where you would get a plastic piece of plastic put on the TV, and you would draw like a bridge and involve
Yep.
yourself in the cartoon. They had to escape across from the bad guys and go on. You draw a bridge on the TV, and kids would just scribble on the TV without getting the plastic.
That's an interesting precursor.
yeah.
Now you do it digitally. Now,
Yeah.
I got one that nobody remembers. That was on Channel 11 when I was a kid. This woman called Fun with Joya. She was a black lady.
Joya.
She was a jazz singer, right? And
Joya's
she had
Fun
this guy
School, okay.
called the Professor, and she would always sing songs and do all this real cool stuff. And all I remember is watching that show and being really, I thought she was really, really cool. She was on Channel 11. Channel 11 would get a lot of stuff that was like, okay, it was on first run. Now we're going to put it on syndication, and now it's here now. So Fun with Joya was on. The
Yeah,
Magic
Time for
Garden was on.
Joya, then called Joya's Fun School. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. chick, but
Romper Room. I
Yeah.
remember. You
Didn't
know,
she have the romper room lady have the magic mirror where she could see you through the TV and always
Yeah.
wait for the name to come up? Okay, so that was we had
I always wanted.
Michigan, but it was.
oh, I gotta
like
riddle you guys
Bozo.
about this one. Between the Lions.
What?
Did you ever see that one? That was an
No.
interesting. And Ernie and Bert actually appeared on it.
What's it called?
Between the Lions, and you might have mistaken it for the Puzzle Place.
Okay.
Lions is
But
spelled
it was
like
it was
the
just one of
animal
many
lion?
other. I think it was off. Both of these were often on after Wishbone on PBS, but these were interesting in that they had an interesting kind of after school kind of bunch of characters all getting together and solving games
Yeah.
and everything. But it was very much same kind of deal. Like I would call either of these kind of a mixture of Bill Nye meets Sesame Street. It was just an interesting way to learn some science, technology, and then have some amusing characters as well as bring up social topics.
Remember
Well-
when John Candy would do a takeoff on Mr. Wizard on SCTV?
Oh God,
Yeah.
He
yeah.
just like
Yes.
smoking a cigarette, did not want to be there, and it hurts because it's hot, kid. You know, that was a great.
He
Great
spilled the
stuff.
sulfuric acid on the kid's arm. He'd be like, "Oh, just break that up, no problem."
Isn't it also though wild though how the same formula got successfully kind of duplicated in all of these kinds of shows just for again still is to some extent. I mean, you kind of got this kind of interactivity with activity centers that were on like PC CD-ROM games kind of too.
Yeah,
And
but
now I feel like that's lost because now everything is so technology, but you see so many parents often shouting at their kid to just play video games in the corner and leave them alone. And it's like, well, the interactivity and the learning captivating part is kind of gone.
I'm happy that our generation, our generation got to see Sesame Street. My nieces, they're more like my cousins than my nieces because we're practically almost like the same age. My nieces got to see Sesame Street, and then my grandnephews are watching Sesame Street because I look at kids today, they don't have that parental guidance now that we had. Parents are parents are too busy. Go on your iPad and watch something. Okay.
It used to be they wanted you to get off your laptop or PC. You're melting your brain. Now it's kind of just
it's like
do anything as long as it's not too violent and there's no sex. It's like what?
I watch what my little nephew watches, and I'm like, that's the dumbest. I'm like kind of looking. I go, what is this about? He goes, oh, just that. I'm like, did you ever watch Sesame Street? And I don't know if he has or not. I know my other
Probably
nephew
not.
Matthew, I think, did. And I don't remember, it's just the kids today, they don't. The thing was that when we were growing up, and I always say this, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, the Electric Company, all these other
Rock.
shows. What was it?
Schoolhouse Rock cartoons.
Schoolhouse Rock, yeah. It was all kind of like, this big ball that we got to be in. This big.
Yeah.
It's like we were in this like dome of like learning. And
but like Mike said, Schoolhouse Rock was definitely kind of a precursor to you can have a catchy song and teach some history to people.
I'm just a bill.
And it wasn't shoved down our throat. It just we learned it. We learned
that is true. I do think half the time, half these family films or shows will stop too much for exposition, and the humor will distract too much from the learning process. And it's like, well, it's not exactly how this all works, but okay.
Well, and then not only that, but the writing back then, it was, kids coming out of college. It was still, there was still
people
humor in the writing.
But I kind of get where it is kind of lost because, I mean, when you are just kind of melting your brain in front of screens, it's easy to just kind of just be out there kind of.
I mean, I remember watching there's one episode, if anybody remembers, I think it's, who was it? The Cookie Monster was with this little kid, right? This little black kid, and they were counting to like 15, right?
Yeah.
And the Cookie Monster's with him, and then it fast forward to the kid now. The kid was like in the army and stuff like that. Says, okay, David, you ready to yeah, okay. So they counted all the way to 20. Says, thank you for doing that. Yeah, Grover, you're my friend. You're my friend too. And they hugged each other. I mean, that was something I loved watching. I loved when Robin Williams was on.
Yes, Whoopi Goldberg. There's so many.
But Robin Williams was on, and he was doing something with Elmo. And there's outtakes where he's with Elmo. And it was just so funny to watch, Robin Williams work with one of the Muppets,
Absolutely.
And I can remember seeing people on that show going, like James Gandolfini was on the show one time.
Yes, yes, he was. Yes,
that's right.
Liam Neeson was in one. Oh, people break up sometimes. You'll love this. There's this one Indian actress. I've been finishing up the show Suits. Have you heard of Nitya Vidya Sajar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, she played Leela from 96 to 2015. And there she is. I see her pop up on Suits. And it was just so funny. I did not expect because I'm looking at her the entire time. I'm like, I know this person. I don't know where. And then I look her up and I'm like, of course. That's who it is.
Somebody else was on that show. Not the kid who played Short Round, but another kid.
Oh, another kid?
Yeah. He was on the show. He took over Mr. Hooper's store, I think. And yeah.
I think I know who took
he was on ER.
Okay, that narrows it down a bit. I'm looking it up.
I keep thinking it's the guy who played Long Duck Dong in Sweet 16 Candles. Or was it B.D. Wong? I don't remember.
I think you're close.
But I remember seeing a couple of famous people on that show and being like, Ethel Merman was on that show. You know, after her marriage to Ernest Borgnine, to which I would have been like, if Ernie Borgnine shows up, I'm going to shit my pants. There's
guy took over Mr. Hooper's store.
But I remember all the cast people on that show. I remember
Alan Muraoka.
Who?
Alan Muraoka is the Japanese actor who played Alan, the current owner of Hooper's store.
Yeah. I remember him.
Pictured doing a book reading at the White House. Wow. Okay. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I have seen him in so many other things.
He was in Volunteer. I think he was in Volunteers.
Oh, then he must be in like one of the first scenes then. If he's
he's in the movie.
Right. No, I get it. I'm just saying, but he's probably in one of the opening scenes with the.
Yeah. But I remember like they had Gordon.
I would always light up anytime I saw Gordon on a Dick Wolf show. I think he was on an episode of The Wire as a patrolman, but I would always light up. I'm like, that's freaking Gordon from.
He played a pimp. He played this really, what was it? He played a pimp in a movie, like a blaxploitation movie. And I'm like thinking to myself, okay, I'm going through these like old movies, and I'm like, holy fuck, he was in a blaxploitation movie? Holy shit.
Yeah, I think sure he was in
the Candy Tangerine Man or something like that. But I remember Roscoe, what's his name? It was Gordon, his wife.
Roscoe Orman. Yeah. Okay.
Roscoe Orman, his wife who was on the show.
Oh, was it Willie Dynamite?
Yeah, Willie Dynamite. That's what it was. Willie Dynamite.
God. He's Willie.
Then there was Maria and her husband Louise. Then there was Bob, who we all loved.
Yeah.
Bob, when he passed away, I was like, dude, that sucks, bro. He was like the one guy we all loved. We all loved that. We all loved that original crew, you know. And then there was David, and he left because he had mental problems, from what I understand.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he was on the show for like 4 or 5 seasons. Then he left, and he passed away.
I always wondered.
There was Mr. Hooper. And then, they would have people come in and out of the show. Linda, I remember the most because Linda was the first time I ever saw a deaf person. Like I said, I didn't know people couldn't hear.
Yeah, she was neat. There's this other, was it Maria?
Maria and Louise.
That's what it was. Yes. Yeah.
And they got let go. And a lot of people were pissed they got let go. They were like,
why'd they let him go?
They were told, yeah.
No, why?
Budget cuts or something like that. And I'm like thinking to myself, dude, that's like the fucking cast right there. That's like getting rid of like Ringo Starr from the Beatles or something like that.
Was this in 2015? Because it says she retired from.
Yeah, she retired.
Oh, okay.
She retired my ass. She did not retire. She was asked to leave. Bob
That's
was
weird. Why would they do that?
Just a casting turnover. How many years are you going to be on that show?
I will admit, who is some of the Zoe segments with Elmo got pretty annoying in the 2000s. I was just like, okay, this is making us learn, but it's also kind of it feels like they're just trying to just take up space, because if you look at it real closely, you're really not learning much during Elmo's segments. So let's ask Yoda here. What do you think of this? A terrorist he is. Okay, settle down. What's your take on him, Mike?
Elmo?
Yeah. Is he a bad guy, or is he just a narcissist?
It's pretty much, he's hyper. Is Gonzo the hyper? Gonzo and Elmo are probably the two most hyper. No.
But Gonzo, you loved it because he'd always come up with these strange ideas,
He and Grover too would just come out of nowhere, and yeah.
Did Gonzo play drums in the band?
No.
No, that was
Oh, no,
Animal.
that was Animal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Animal played the drums. Zoot played the sax. The guitar player was Dr. Teeth. Yeah, I remember.
Yes.
Dr. Teeth and
man.
Electric Mayhem, was it?
Yeah, Dr. Teeth and the Electric. And they're doing a movie. They did a movie about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You
with
know.
and the Janice with the yarn hair, remember?
Yeah,
The
Janice, man. Yeah.
I dug up my Born to Add Sesame Street album, which is musical parodies. Born to Add, obviously, take off on Born to Runs. Bruce Stringbean and the S Street Band.
Hold up. I might have that one.
Really?
Hold up.
The album?
No, okay, okay, no, I don't have that one. There was another, but yeah, that's true. It's a total. Even the cover alone is a Springsteen hit. Shit, there was this other one. I think we used to have on cassette and would play in the car on loop, and they had Aerosmith singing a rendition of "I Love Trash."
Okay, so that's probably.
It's probably way down the line, like late
with the
80s.
Muppets. And then letter B, Let It Be. The Sesame Street Beatles spelled correctly.
Oh my god. They did
10
so many albums. They probably have more albums than National Lampoon. My god.
Honk Around the Clock, the Honkers.
The Honkers.
And the Cookie Monster was doing a Barry White takeoff. Me going to munch you, munch you, munch you. Cookie Monster and the Crumbs Unlimited Orchestra.
Oh my god. Okay, so it was Elmo Palooza from 98. And that one had Gloria Estefan, the Mighty Boss Tones with the Count, Fijis, and Celine Dion and Kenny Loggins. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, this was all in-house stuff though with the and I can't get no cooperation. Mick Swagger and the Sesame Street Cobblestone.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Mick Swagger. Wow.
And Hey Food instead of Hey Jude. Cookie Monster. Yeah. And there were counted, and some are just songs from the show. Like I wish I had a friend to play with me, Bert. That's that's
the one I loved was I have the Muppet Show record. And It's Not Easy Being Green, which I think is one of the best songs to talk about,
So they crossed over a lot of Sesame Street stuff onto that. They imported it.
No, not really. No.
Was Green? Was that from the Muppet Show or?
Yeah, because Green is for an Oscar. So
that was from the Muppet Show. The one that got the Oscar nod was the Rainbow Connection by Paul Williams.
Okay.
And
Kermit's saying it's not easy being green.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fucking up. I'm goofing.
Being the color of the leaves,
Yeah.
And I remember that they played that on the Cosby Show when Rudy was like, they were telling Rudy she was too small or too little, and they played that, and you cry a little bit. There's songs I've heard.
Van Morrison covered it too.
Yeah, I still cry. I still cry a little bit when I hear them. Oh, I'm sorry.
It is beautiful music, in all fairness.
I still cry. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cry when I hear the Rainbow Connection because it's just like
it's just mystical, kind of.
Yeah. In fact,
it's the introduction of them on the big screen. Yeah, doesn't it open the movie?
Yeah.
And then you get Orson to close the movie. Spoiler.
Yeah, and the thing I love is my senior year, we had to pick songs, and these girls picked this song called "A Place in This World" by some Christian rock.
What?
Singer. It was a piece of shit. If you hear this,
I imagine it's Christian rock.
It's a piece of shit from the get-go, right? I was thinking, okay, what would be good to play? I thought in my life,
Arrival.
Yeah, in my life, the Beatles. Yeah, sure, that's good. And then just something popped in my head. How about the Rainbow Connection, right? So I wrote it down, the Rainbow Connection, and like everybody was going, no. So everybody went with this song, and I was just like, I would sing like bad lyrics, like roaming for a night to find a place in this girl, just terrible lyrics. And I said, it would have been great if we'd done the Rainbow Connection because, I would have loved to have done it because it's like,
Same message,
a song about us
but...
growing up, and it's a great song. And you hear nowadays, when you get older, you hear the Rainbow Connection, you're like, it makes more sense now, because
it was written by adults for everyone, but
yeah,
it's a good way of just kind of evolving in a way, just seeing stuff that I think that's why it has this whole franchise has lasted as long as it has. It's meant for all kind of consumption as opposed to one kind of audience, or you had to be there to get it.
I'm surprised they never had George Jessel on the Muppet Show. George Jessel would have been like, I worked with Kermit in 1933 when we were working at. I worked with Fozzie Bear.
I worked with him once. Albert Brooks.
You worked with the Toastmaster.
George, yeah. Albert Brooks, A Star Is Bought album. At the last track is the car mechanic. I played the car mechanic, they give you a script and you play the record and say your part. And I did it on the radio when I DJ'd. So and Georgie Jessel shows up about halfway through it.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
the real George Jessel,
the actual George Jessel. So it would have been 73-ish.
Comedy minus one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember at one point George Jessel goes, "Who are you talking to?" I'm talking to you. That's the way it's scripted. So my dad was here and I said, "How the heck are you?" If you didn't know what was going on, you think Albert Brooks and George Jessel were in the studio. So it was
well, the thing is with that
that's how interactive it was.
With that record, there was a famous thing like drums minus one, like you had to play the drums to the record or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And Brooks was like, Albert Brooks did such a great thing. He's like, comedy minus one. Okay, you have to be this character in this sketch. And the funny thing was, his father did a character called Park Your Carcass.
Yep.
And this is the truth. His father was at a friar's roast.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
And his father was,
he knows.
You know about this, but his father had done his bit. He sat down and slumped over the table and died.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a doctor in the house and everybody thought it was a joke? Yeah.
Joke, and it wasn't.
Wow.
But I wish they'd had a.
That is secretly how I want to go.
Yeah.
But I'd rather it be by elevator, but we'll see. I'll let death decide for me.
Okay, this got dark.
It did get dark.
Okay.
Well, speaking of which, what is your favorite kind of? We've mentioned some off-color moments on here. Are there any other like recurring gags that made you just kind of going on the Wicca alone? I'm actually surprised at how many references there are to the bees in the trees in different songs on either Muppet Show format. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
And it's just I'm sure parents must have been guffawing. They're like, hey, at least my kid found out how stuff works.
The bits I always loved was like Grover being a waiter at a restaurant, and the guy keeps screwing up the order for the guy. When what? Hey Charlie, what peanut butter and jelly? I can't do the voice. My voice is sore, but and the guy says, I just want a peanut butter and jelly, and he keeps screwing up the order like over and over again. And then there was one I loved with Sam the Eagle. You guys remember Sam the Eagle from the Muppet Show?
Morons.
So you are all a bunch of weirdos. That's Frank Oz doing that voice, right? So
I think so. Yeah.
He's supposed to be like this, like really uptight, So the thing was that I always tell this story. When I was in middle school, we had a principal, Mr. Iraji, right? And I was like, he was telling us kids one day something about, how strict this, I don't tolerate anything. And I just turned to one of my friends and said, Jesus Christ, we're getting lectured by Sam the Eagle. And if you looked at him, he looked like Sam the Eagle. He was bald. We called him Bald Eagle. And it was like, you're all a bunch of weirdos. And then he used to do I used to love like some of the gags were great, like, a Muppet News Flash, with Kermit the Frog, interviewing somebody. Pigs in Space, I loved. There's certain things.
The narrator come in and they'd all start looking around looking for the narrator.
Yeah. Join us next.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Who's
join us? Did you see the narrator?
Yeah.
No, I've never seen him. They just did a couple years ago. They did a Muppets Take Over the O2, and David Tennant came out as Doctor Who when they did Pigs in Space, and he came out and he says, the guy goes, "Is that a lightsaber?" He says, "No, that's a sonic screwdriver. Better than a lightsaber." To which I was like, okay, shots fired, But yeah, there's so many gags and so many things you see. I got to watch them over again so I can just get the jokes again, because at some point, with Sesame Street, there's some great things to watch. Like there's when they do songs, like they did one time they did, it's a bunch of animals in the forest, right? And you hear something happening here. What it is exactly? There's a man with a gun over there, and it's a hunter coming in, telling me, and say, "Stop, children! What's that sound? Everybody, look what's going on!" And he shoots up, and you just hear you see a plane crash in the background or something like that. Wow. And that was a really good thing to do, So that was something I always loved. I mean, there's so much to go on, and there's so much to know that I've got to watch. I just got to watch it over again, get it through my head again. What was funny, Statler, of course, Statler and Waldorf. Are you waiting for the end? Are you waiting for the world end? Nothing comes before the end of this show.
You've seen the meme where they associate that with Mystery Science Theater because they're riffing the Muppet Show.
They really are at the time. Yeah. Rank these movies, will you? Yes.
Somebody has a great meme saying infinity, and it's Statler and Waldorf looking at Mystery Science Theater, and then Mystery Science Theater is looking at Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah, I've seen that with the loop.
Yeah,
I have seen mashups of that.
Yeah.
So speaking of the critics, it's time to critique the ones you've seen. Who'd like to go first?
I can go first because I'm just at random, just 5 of my favorite things about the Muppet Show.
Okay.
Are associated. We talked about it earlier, Snuffleupagus. I just thought that was a neat character. Hello, Bird. And he's probably the biggest Muppet, and the concept that nobody can see him but Bird, and then like James said, later everybody could see him.
Right.
And I guess didn't Quantum Leap do that with Dean Stockwell's character too? Only kids could see him.
They did it in one episode where Sam leapt into a mom's body, and only the daughter could see Al.
Okay, Al, that's okay. Yeah.
Hey, Al.
I don't remember the Muppets. It was on Sesame Street. I don't know what the characters, but near, far.
Yeah, it's a Grover thing.
Way back. I love that. Near, far.
Here, far.
I love the count because the concept is so simple. He counts.
1, 2, 3 bodies.
3.
Yeah.
He's just a cool character.
He had
to be a little scary, yeah. There was a skit with Ernie and Bert. They're turning in for the night. And, hey, Bert, he hasn't dropped the other shoe yet. Apparently, the upstairs apartment, Ernie couldn't get to sleep and the guy dropped his other shoe. He's waiting for the shoe to drop.
Oh, yeah.
God, I remember that.
They had a whole extended bit on that. I can't hear the shoe drop. Ernie, gotta sleep. Yeah. That was a fun skit.
That was one of those ones you just you don't get the joke and you don't get the meaning, the other shoe to drop.
Yep.
Right.
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yeah.
And that's, they did a whole play on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Muppet precursor to the Muppet Show was a special. and they had a 7 deadly sin contest in that. And I particularly remember Lust. This phallic symbol like Muppet comes out.
It makes sense.
The babes. It was
If
really.
you see it, it is an interesting precursor to the actual Muppet theme, where they're saying the end of sex and violence.
Yep, it was a little more adult than the way the Muppet Show turned out. And one quick side note: you guys also think Fozzie Bear was just a hack?
Yeah,
I think that was the joke. Yeah,
that was the joke. Yeah,
I mean, because literally Kermit is doing his job for him while he's micromanaging him, and he's always blowing him off or distracted doing something or laughing at his own jokes. So
yep. So those are my 5 takes.
All right.
Good picks those are.
Okay.
Do you want my 5 or?
Oh, you can rank whatever you want. I was going to go through the whole catalog.
We're off the map here. We're just crazy today.
Okay.
Points don't matter, do
they? My 5 are the Muppet News with Spike Milligan, where he does the news with the Muppet newscaster, and it's basically like he literally does it, like he's side by side with him, and they say, a madman was seen today wearing and it's Spike Milligan says, "Really? We must get after him," and he runs off. The one there was one on Sesame Street I always loved, which was the one where this is a little heartbreaking when I said when Mr. Hooper died, because that kind of taught us when we were kids, even though people are gone, they're always, the memories are always going to be around with them. That was, something that hit me pretty hard as a kid. It prepares you for what's going to happen when you're an adult and stuff like that.
Correct.
I always loved whenever Miss Piggy would get pissed off.
Oh yeah, and she knows kung fu for whatever reason.
That, she would always do that, because she'd always like she was like this prim and proper starlet, and then someone would say something like, "Really? Hey, yeah!" Boom, she'd like knock somebody out. I loved whenever the other one was Phenomena, which I loved.
Yeah,
my mom used to sing that to me when I was a little kid, and I would be laughing hysterically. I loved in the Great Muppet Caper. We gotta catch them with them red-handed. What color are their hands now? And then the one I always loved in the end of the Muppet movie was there's a part where they start singing the Muppet Connection, the Rainbow Connection, and I think the camera pulled back and all the Muppets were there.
Yeah.
And then there's a special mention I always say when they did the memorial service for Jim Henson, right? It was the memorial service for Jim Henson. They had Kermit sitting there, the new puppet. They were going to introduce Kermit's new voice.
Oh, really?
And they had him singing the Rainbow Connection, and all the Muppet, right. All the Muppet, puppeteers came out, and Carol Spinley was in the the Big Bird outfit, and Snuffleupagus was there, and I think everybody from the cast was singing it. And the way he did his memorial service, nobody was allowed to wear black. Everybody had to dress up brightly, with bright colors and stuff like that.
Wow. It
was so beautiful to remember a man like that. I mean, that's something I always remember. I mean, it's not the shows, it's just the human condition of what he made us be as children.
It's kind of poetic.
Yeah. And hearing that song in the beginning, sunny day, chasing the clouds away, you always want to live on Sesame Street.
And they would always change it up. I recall sometime in the 90s, there would be times where they'd be following Big Bird kind of walking out of state, and he'd hit his nose once in a while on like a telephone pole and then keep walking.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of an irony that they added in addition to the iconic theme. And it was just it would never be the same opening too. I think that's why people were drawn into it also. It's like, what's going to happen on this episode, even though it's ultimately the same learning formula. And
I just love at the end where today's show is brought to you by the letters Y, K, and J, and the numbers 3, 7, and 12.
Yeah.
Oh man, good stuff.
Oh, you guys want to know something? You guys want to know something really funny?
Yes.
Paul Benedict. If you remember the Jeffersons, Paul Benedict, Mr.
Yeah,
the guy who played the neighbor.
The British neighbor, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Turns out he was on early episodes of Sesame Street as the painter. Remember, he would paint like 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, he
that was
painting.
him.
Yeah, that was him with a beard.
Wow.
And then one of his assistants was Stockard Channing.
Oh wow. From Greece.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm like, holy shit, that's Stockard Channing. And that's Mr. What was his name? Paul Benedict's character. I forgot in that show. And I was like, what the, like, there's one where he's scuba diving and he paints a 2 on the guy's head. You know, it was just funny to watch, you know. So I just thought I might bring that to your attention, you know.
No, we'll keep an eye out.
The people who did the animation for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that supposedly is some of the animators from Yellow Submarine.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah.
It had a similar kind of eclectic.
There's a lot of little animated shorts on Sesame Street. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild. I had no idea it was interconnected that same way. But
I seen one where there was a rocket launch and the thing was tipping over.
Yeah.
There was a rocket launch and it would
was
often be showing some space info, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rocket was tipping over and the guy doing the countdown just pointed like, oh, look, you know. strange.
I think I would, to piggyback on that, those are definitely 2 animations that kind of stand out to me a lot, as well as just running kind of learning formulas. But if I had to think who are the first like faces I remember, it would definitely be Maria Gordon, but it would also probably be Bob Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just those were kind of the 3 guys who I always just kind of thought were kind of holding down the fort. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick ranking here just so we can get this underway. Yeah, so it's on a 5-star scale. I'm going to probably rank the original Muppet Show, Muppets Tonight, the 2015 mockumentary show, the original Muppet movie, Treasure Island, the Christmas specials from both 87 and 2002, and From Space, a 4 out of 5. I feel like those are like the peak. Like, you really want to check those out just because they aren't reliant on being there at the time. They're also got numerous gags and feature all the characters probably at their best moments.
Yeah.
3.5 out of 5 definitely would give to the Christmas Carol, Sesame Street, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, Dinosaurs.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
No, all good. The first
right.
Look at the birds in the trees. We're a Jug Band.
It's a great one. I was talking to Ricky Morgan and he talked about how he plays that. He has that on every Christmas. I'm like, good on you. Labyrinth, Dinosaurs, and first 2 seasons of Farscape. I definitely think those are all very intriguing to check out. 3 out of 5 definitely give to Elmo and Grouchland, Dark Crystal, Muppets Haunted Mansion, which is a recent thing, Dream Child, Dark Crystal, and you guys might also want to check out this very obscure TV movie from like 2015 called Turkey Hollow. This was
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it was made on Lifetime. It has Mary Steenburgen, but it was based on a unmade Jim Henson script that later became a comic book, and it's just it's a monster family film that takes place during Thanksgiving. And
oh, really?
It had a fun cast. It's very easygoing. I would show it to kids. And a 2.5 out of 5 I would probably give to the Muppet Mayhem. I didn't feel like this was a good use. Muppet Babies also didn't really. I'm glad Howie Mandel got some work, but this did not hold up as well. And then like I said, there's funny parts and parts of the Muppet Caper, but I feel like there's some other stuff that could be better done. And then a 2 out of 5 I would give to Alf and Bear in the Big Blue House. I just always felt like those were not the best use of the formula. And Manhattan and the Muppets Wizard of Oz. Oh, if you ever saw that one, that is a painfully annoying cameo by Tarantino.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought Disney was trying to encourage them to churn out a special now and again. And it was just like, there's no need, guys. And the recent 2 Disney films, I'm going to give those a 1 out of 5. Those aren't going to appeal to your kid, and they're not going to appeal to today's crowd. That's just kind of a cash grab.
Yeah, they're kind of pushing them out,
I love Jack Black to death, but even he's kind of wasted.
Yeah. I'll say this: the Muppet movie is probably, it's like, to me, it's the Muppet movies, Muppets from Outer Space, Treasure Island.
Yes, Treasure Island. Definitely.
Treasure Island. I like A Christmas Carol, and I liked what was the Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, because I thought that's something we all grew up on. That was on HBO a lot when we were kids.
Just a pitch perfect, and much like Fraggle Rock. I mean, in fact, probably without that, you probably don't get Fraggle Rock, because that was on HBO before they were really a thing.
Yeah,
I fluctuate on the Happy Time Murders. I'm ashamed to say I saw that in theaters, but depending on the day, I kind of range. There's parts of it that I would give a 3 out of 5, and there's other parts I'd give a 2.
I didn't like that.
I'm the same way. It's just there are some amusing gags and bloopers, but you got to get through a lot of very poorly done transitions to get to any kind of amusement.
To me, that was like shitting on Jim Henson. I just
so
think that's
weird. It's like they always had kind of some risque, naughty stuff, but it just went on way too long.
Yeah,
it probably would have worked better as an SNL short and cut out some serious stuff. It's ultimately not a very good movie, because which is a real shame, because there's a lot of great comedians in it. It's just, like you say, it's not really. It would have been better probably as a South Park parody, because it doesn't really deserve to be called a Henson production, really.
Well, here's what got me was when they were doing SNL, and if anybody remembers seeing it, they did the last time I think they did it. It was the Muppets aren't here, but we got some stand-ins. So it was 2 socks, and it cuts over, and it's Chevy Chase doing the 2 socks, and he just looks like, yeah. And I think that's when Henson kind of was like, "All right, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous." Because Belushi said, "I'm not playing to pieces of fucking felt," or something like that.
That probably.
They also had Albert Brooks short films on there taking up time too, which they resented.
Yeah.
So that probably explains why Chevy's in Follow That Bird.
Yeah. Yeah, Hey, Chevy, you want some money? Yeah, be in a Muppet movie.
Something on your list reminded me of a Mystery Science Theater recurring riff. Jim Henson's Jack Palance Babies.
Oh yeah, whenever they do that,
strange looking character, and it looked like a younger Jack Palance. They would do that several times.
The one that got me.
Jim Henson's Edgar Winter Babies.
Yeah.
Yes, the Edgar. I was just about to say the Edgar Winter Babies. Yeah, is definitely the one that stuck with me the most, because
I just saw it with Ringo a couple weeks ago. That's cool.
Oh, he's still in concert?
Yeah. Was it Edgar Winter? Yeah.
Wow. How was that?
Awesome. Yeah, it was like, we're going to go see Ringo. And, you got the guy from Toto. You got the guy from Men at Work.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Where is this in Michigan? This is...
Oh, he's touring. But at Grand Rapids, it played the Voss Hall.
Wow. Nice. What a pairing. Here in Dallas, there was some other kind of independent music jam festival, and they got Steve Miller and a few other 70s, 80s rock bands. Nice.
Probably Toto.
The guy from Toto, the guy from Men at Work, Edgar Winter, and there's one other band. I can't remember who it was now.
Steve Lukather's in the band.
Is Animal playing?
Who was it?
Is Animal playing?
No.
I'm just being an
He
asshole.
had an extra drummer though.
Oh, by the way, two things. Animal is based on the late great Keith Moon.
Okay.
Oh,
that makes sense.
wow.
If you look at the way Animal's drum kit is set up and the way he acts, it's based on Keith Moon. I think somebody knew somebody in the Who, and they just designed this Muppet to
That
be
makes
like,
sense.
look
'cause
carefully at Keith Moon and look carefully at Animal, and it's almost like if you put one on top of the other, they almost look alike, you know.
Wow.
I just remembered Ringo's other. It was the guy from the Average White Band. Now I don't know the names.
Oh, Stu Hamish.
But they would also do their own songs. They do like 2 songs from Average White, you know. So it was.
Yeah.
I think they do some Average White Band covers in From Space, but that's interesting because, like you say, they have all these connections from England, from where the original show was filmed. So that might be where they might have met Keith Moon, at one of those performing halls or back rooms.
So yeah, they were talking about, and then not only that, but if you want something really really good about that weird, Zero Mostel filmed the show, I think 6 weeks before he died.
Oh wow!
The Muppet Show, his Muppet Show episode, and it aired after he passed away.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I think I remember seeing that. Yeah,
he did a really good job on it too. You know. But you know, unfortunately, he passed away. So they didn't say anything like in tribute to or anything like that. I think
it was probably already in the can. But
yeah,
that's crazy. Man, this has been fun, guys. Yoda, should we include your rankings in there next time? If you must. All right. I guess we'll include him in the next ranking somehow, somewhere.
Yeah.
So next week, we're going to try and pay a tribute to Marty Krofft.
Sid,
talk about his partner Sid, and just we've talked about a bit of them tonight, but James and I were talking off air, and he was like, "Oh, we just lost another beloved icon."
It's like you know what's sad? It's like everybody we know is dying off. Like Norman Lear passed away. Sid and Marty.
We
Krofft
were trying to do a Norman Lear especially earlier, and we haven't done it yet. But yeah, then he just passed away at 101, and we're like, "Damn it!"
You know, I have something really weird. We were talking about a couple shows ago. We were talking about Gary Marshall.
Yeah,
and I was watching these Grindhouse trailers, right? And there's a movie with Jacqueline Bisset called The Grasshopper from 1970. The Grasshopper, right? She plays a young woman who gets like involved in like drugs and showbiz and all this shit.
Oh my God, Joseph Cotton, Jim Brown. Oh my God.
Yeah. Gary Marshall and Jerry Paris wrote it. Wow. And Jerry Paris directed it. And I went, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then Gary Marshall did a movie called Doctors in Love.
Yes. Oh my God.
Young Doctors in Love, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's making fun of soap operas. Yeah.
You have to watch that movie. There's a scene in there where they're discussing this thing, and you see this like midget. He's trying to reach the payphone in the back, and the whole time they're talking this, and you see like the midget, he's like jumping up trying to grab the payphone.
I think I remember that.
Stool. He falls off the stool. I mean, I was in hysterics watching that. But yeah, that's a movie he did, and the thing that gets me is like now we lost Norman Lear. I said somebody said this on the Gilbert Gottfried page. Said somebody check on Dick Van Dyke and Mel Brooks, please.
Yeah,
because when Dick Van Dyke goes and when Mel Brooks goes, game over. That's it. I'm done.
We lost
Marshall
Andre.
also does a great bit in Albert Brooks' Lost in America, where he plays the casino owner or the manager.
That's him. Wow.
Oh yeah.
And people thought he was an actual. He wasn't a well-known actor. He's behind the scenes guy, but people bought that he was an actual casino owner. If you watch that, it's a great scene where Albert tries to get their money back. And he goes, it is one of the funniest.
We lost our money. We want it back.
Yeah.
I can't give you your money back.
No, in that movie, Santa Claus saves the day. So then we get him.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do it justice. You got to see the movie. You can see it on YouTube, I believe. The punchline is we're finished talking.
That's wild. We also lost
Gary
Andre. We lost Andre Brager also.
Yeah.
Wow.
What did he pass away from?
It hasn't said, but like some other kind of, I think, chest pains or just some other kind of long term.
They said short illness, so it could have been something. The thing that gets me the most is when we talk about Norman Lear, there was I was looking at some of the shows he did that weren't really that popular. Like, you know, he would have them out and they'd be gone within like 13 weeks. So there's two there's two that he did. I think he did Hotel Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I think he did one called where the roles were reversed. So the men were like the women and the women were like the men.
Yep, all that glitters.
All that glitters, yes. Yeah. And there's another one. There were a couple that he did that kind of like fell, you know, they kind of fell short, like 281 Hauser Street. Remember that? Where John Amos owned the house R.C. Bunker was in, which was great because it was kind of like, you know, they patched up things.
That's good
in real life, yeah. But I was, you know, Norman Lear and yeah, those are the two, you know, those are the two biggies. And Norman Lear was the big one. You know, Norman Lear's the one where I'm kind of sitting there going, you know, it's all there, but the guy was a goddamn genius, you know.
Yeah.
So
didn't he also direct the movie with Bob Newhart when the whole town tried to quit smoking?
Cold Turkey.
That was Norman Lear, wasn't it?
I think it was. And I keep thinking he had a hand to start the revolution without me.
Okay.
I got to look that up.
Hey, kid, Gary Marshall.
Gary Marshall was in a show called Hey Landlord. And then there was an episode of The Odd Couple where Myrna Turner, who was Penny Marshall's character, left the show. And they come, the Sheldon's waiting. I want you to my sister, my brother, and my sister. This is Werner Turner and Myrna Turner, and they'll go hello like that, and it's actually Penny Marshall's sister and Tony and Gary Marshall. So that was the big joke, you know, the in joke with them, you know.
Mm-hmm. Am I the only one? I liked Happy Days the first two seasons before they had the live audience. It seemed like when they got the live audience, it got broader. Everyone was louder. It was more of a down home. You could go back and watch those. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't age well. I don't know. I watched it the whole run. You know,
the single camera shoot was good.
Yeah,
when they did it on The Odd Couple, but when they got to be more, when they did the 3-camera shoot, which is like kind of like what I Love Lucy did, I think the thing is that it stretched out more. It wasn't as claustrophobic, because I always feel when those first 2 seasons of Happy Days, I feel claustrophobic with the characters. I mean, there are some funny situations, but it's just, it feels too small.
And it's fascinating to watch the Fonz develop too. You know, gradually takes over the series. So
so
anyway, all right,
very cool, guys. This was a lot of fun.
I wonder. Can we just say, Tom? We wonder where you are tonight. We're not angry at you, Tom. We want you to come home, please. Your mother and I miss you. She made noodle kugel for you. Come home, please, Tom. Please come home. No, Tom. We missed you tonight, Tom. So when he joins us next week, we'll see him.
Can you do a solo one and splice him in, Cam?
I mean, we could try that, but
he'll be around again.
He'll be around.
I'll be around.
Why was he not around?
Around he was not. trick I use. So this was a delight, guys, and probably the best puppet special we've done in a while.
All right.
Good. All right. See you guys around, okay?
I'll talk for now.
Right.
Can you
I'll
tell
see
me
you
how to
Thursday.
get? Yeah.
And whoever listens, next week we got to do our big Merry Christmas for everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, it's next week already. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, shit. Yeah.
Next weekend. I gotta get some shopping done yet.
Can you tell me how to get?
Can you tell me how to get some sales? No.
No, get to Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Oh. Tell me how.
Okay.
But yeah, I would like to know how to get some good sales going.
I like the Captain Kangaroo theme too.
You know what's weird? I heard that on another show, and I'm like, why are they playing the Captain Kangaroo theme?
Someone was doing a homage.
Yeah.
It was either that or Triumph the Insult Common Dog do some gross parody of it.
For me to poop on.
For me to poop on the way.
Wait. Can I just say something?
Yeah, we didn't mention him. There's another puppet. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I was forgetting one.
And,
anyway,
and you have to watch Saturday's TV Funhouse on Comedy Central when that was on with the puppets.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit! I never laughed my ass off because that's the great thing about Smigel. He just takes things and just blows them out of the water. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
totally.
All right, guys.
All
I'm
right.
gonna get going.
Always a delight, my dude.
Take care.
Be safe
See you
out there.
later. Good
See you
day.
later.
And be safe.
All right.
Always fun, my dude. Always fun.
All right. Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up